Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Why We Travel podcast. Today we want to talk about a bit of a serious topic about racism while traveling, but also a very exciting topic because we have someone who traveled quite extensively. So I have Ucman with me today. He has been to more than 70 countries, so he has a vast experience on traveling and also to going to places that are not completely on the normal way, so a bit of off-beaten destinations. So we want to learn more about this. So hello, Ucman, how are you today?
Hello, hi. I'm good, thank you. How about you?
All good. Usman, give me a bit of a background. What got you into traveling? How did you become a traveler?
Well, to be honest, I grew up in Pakistan, which is I felt quite claustrophobic when I was younger because there's not a lot you can do. You can't really get out of the country. The options are fairly limited. So I moved to UK and I got a chance to go around. Actually, my first place was Munich, which I went and I absolutely loved it so much that I just kind of got into it more and more. And then once I kind of started, then there was no looking back. And I'm really happy that I got it on that path. And yeah, it's been like 12 years since then. And yeah, I haven't stopped and there's no plan to stop either.
Okay, so you're a perpetual traveler. What are you, do you see yourself? Are you more a solo traveler, an individual traveler, an adventure traveler? What's your your style of traveling?
Definitely solo. I do most of my trips on my own. I mean, I started with, like going with friends and all, but I soon realized that they can't keep up with me. So I switched to the whole solo thing. But I do add like a little bit of whatever, I mean, depending on the destination. But it's a, beach place. I'd love to go snorkeling, see some marine life. If it's a place where I could go hiking, I absolutely love to do that. So I add, depending on the country, I just kind of, change plans accordingly. So that's the idea behind, go mingle, go with an empty, like clean slate, and then see what you can learn from the people and what else you can see.
Okay. So we're diving a little bit of a more serious topic today. It's about racism and being a traveler, being in environments, societies where you sort of stand out and you're not part of the culture, and you have some experience on that one. So give me a bit of a background. What happened? What got you into this topic?
I went to, it was actually the height of Syrian war, and I visited Vienna, excuse me, at the time, and I was treated really poorly, quite badly actually. And it wasn't just the general population. It was actually, I got pretty harsh treatment from the border agency in Vienna as well. Even though I legally entered and legally left, but I actually, yeah, it was not a good experience. And before that, I hadn't paid much attention. So when I came back, I was not really happy with the experience. And I got talking to a few other friends who expressed similar things. So that got me into, the idea that how people differ when it comes to traveling and how you're treated based on the color of your skin. So I have a good friend and her girlfriend is white. She is mixed English Caribbean. And the stories that I heard from her, like obviously I travel solo, so experience is entirely mine. But if you're traveling with someone who's white, she actively told me like people would approach her, they would give the bill to her, or they would completely ignore her, like, or kind of pretend that she's not even there. So then that got me thinking, and I realized that it's actually, looking back, some of the experiences I've had were because I was a certain, I looked a certain way. So people either treated me really well because I was exotic, or treated me poorly because they had the preconceived notion of what I should be based on the stereotype they had seen in the TV or the movie, or what someone told you who visited Middle East or whatever. So it is quite a different thing depending on the destination again. Some places, there's a positive discrimination. I'm half Iranian, half Pakistani. So I get quite a lot of, like, oh, Iran, or oh, Pakistan's dangerous, or Iran's so beautiful. So depending on what side of the story they've heard, so I get treated accordingly. And sometimes it's financial, but people think that white tourists have more money, they will tip them better, so they kind of gear towards them more, kind of leaving you behind. And sometimes it's just racism. There's no other way to describe it. But it comes in different flavors, different forms. Some are more bearable, like the financial part. That's fine. I don't really generally care too much about that. But the racism part is the one that's actually quite hurtful. And a big part of it has been like Europe generally.
Okay, that would bring me to my next question. So do you think there is, I sort of answered that already, but are there certain areas where you think it happens more? I mean, you travel extensively with more than 70 countries. Obviously, your experience might be very different from area to area. So I'm talking about continents or not specific countries. So do you think that's something that has more to do with, I don't know, society, how they perceive someone who looks different, or is it the individual where you just bumped into and it's just like a singular event? What do you think? Where does that come from?
I think generally I discount all individual experiences because every country has good and bad people. I mean, you would have racist people in Brazil, which is one of the friendliest countries I've been to. But at the same time, you could have it's the same as having really nice people in Vienna, which I obviously met, which is the most racist place I've ever been to. So individual experiences, I generally tend to discount. But overall, on the whole, it's more of an experience, like how you feel throughout the trip, and at the end of it, when you're taking stock, it's like, okay, that was not so great, or people are not friendly here. So I generally base it on that rather than individual experiences. Yeah, that's generally how I see it.
Yeah, no, it's more individual experiences, that's for sure. When you travel, I mean, you have I looked at your website, some very off the beaten path destinations. Do you think there people are more welcoming, more open, more curious about you than like metropole regions, which have a complete different flair and vibe to it?
I'm going to be honest, generally, and there are obviously exceptions to this, but generally, more off the beaten path countries that are still developing, people are friendlier and nicer. Like I said, there's obviously exceptions to that, but that's the rule. Most of the places I've been to that are not on the mainstream tourist map, people have been amazing. And again, exceptions to the other side as well. People are really friendly in some, for example, Brazil again, I'll give you an example. It's quite a touristy place, Rio, but it was really easy to mingle with people, really friendly, nice. Everyone's really get along. But I went to, and I'm going to single out Buenos Aires because the rest of Argentina was pretty good. But Buenos Aires, I had a very weird experience where and I realized this throughout the trip when I was going on tours, that they tend to think of themselves as Italians and Spaniards of South America. So they have a chip on their shoulder, which actually I find kind of ironic because Italians and Spaniards are the friendliest people in Europe. And they're the least friendliest people in South America. I mean, most South Americans say that as well. So it is a little bit of a mixed bag, but yeah, the poorer off the beaten path the country is, the friendlier the people are. That's generally what I've seen so far.
Yeah. Once you're in a situation where you see there's somebody who has some kind of wrong thinking, put it that way, how do you circumnavigate? How you deal in the situation with that person? What's your tactic there, your strategy?
It really depends on two things. One, is it because of ignorance or lack of exposure? Yes, I would love to correct or, have a general discussion, not a pointed discussion, because that gets people defensive. So if I've stayed with someone who think, people from Middle East are XYZ or they're aggressive or this or that, so I like to think that then they would be able to see that, hey, there's a non-aggressive, guy who came through. So that might change their opinion. But if someone is aggressive and they already have a opinion formed, like, hey, go back to your own country or whatever. I just tend not to engage because I feel like that at that point it's a lost cause, because I'm not there to, do therapy for someone who's angry for some other reason that's been misdirected based on race stereotypes. So it's not my job to be there and help them with that. So I just disengage. I just don't. I don't like to communicate or just be part of the same thing. That's my way of dealing with things.
No, I think that's the right approach. I would deal with this exactly the same way. And interesting enough, you said it's not only people of color, it's also white people. I mean, even I have had situations where you can feel racism and when it actually comes through. And then the best way is, just not to engage. You can't change the world. And as you said, there's the good, the bad, the ugly in every place, no matter where you are. And it's just something you have to deal with. But on a lighter note, obviously with traveling, and I see for you also as part of food is a big part of every journey. Any particular experiences that stick out where people should go and explore the country, not only because of the food, but maybe go there and try the food?
Yeah, so actually, food, people tend to think of places, they have associations based on certain senses. For me, it's always been the taste. So I love remembering, I had that food there, XYZ, or, and I love exploring the local food there. So the biggest surprise for me was actually Georgia. And I am really surprised that it's not so mainstream here, but Georgia had amazing food. And it's actually quite distinctive from other ex-Soviet countries. So the food is really good. It's quite experimental as well. Like they had this milk garlic chicken, which sounds horrible on paper, but it was actually really delicious. They also do really fun dumplings, but usually you get like dumplings in soup. They put the soup inside the dumplings, which is really good. They also do, this is called hekali, if you want to try it. And they do khachapuri, which is like this bread, which is either stuffed or they create a boat with cheese and eggs. And it's quite an amazing cuisine. I had a lot of fun when I was trying that. So that's one thing. I'm a huge fan of Uzbek cuisine, which I just came back from. And honestly, I thought like after Pakistani food, Iranian food, because these are quite meat-heavy cuisines, but I thought, like, hey, Afghans do it, or, Iranians and Pakistanis, they do the meat so well. But I was really surprised at Uzbeks because they take things to another level. And I had such a good time eating. And I didn't mind putting on weight when I was there. But yeah, Uzbekistan had really amazing cuisine. So I'm really, really impressed with that as well. So if you get a chance, Georgia, Uzbekistan, these are like my two really favorite destinations.
Yeah, I can vouch for Georgia, definitely. Uzbekistan, I will put it on my list. Thanks for the tip. I really appreciate that. Also notion that a lot of people who do not travel extensively, they always have the sort of idea that you don't get any food anywhere. So it's like, how do you survive in this place, this faraway place? And you go there and they have amazing food. So it's kind of interesting.
Right. Sometimes it is a quiet taste. Sorry, sometimes it is a bit of a quiet taste, but I guess you kind of get on if you have like, okay, I can deal with this. So then you get on. Otherwise, sometimes you do suffer at places, unfortunately.
Yeah. With all the traveling, how does that, or has that changed you as a person over the years?
I feel like I've become a lot more distanced from the mass consumption economy. I realized that I've been out on like travels for 2-3 months with just a small trolley and a backpack, and I've realized that's actually more than enough for me. So I've tend to distance a little bit from the materialistic side of like I need more. I've become like more comfort oriented than fashion oriented over time. And most of all, I just kind of, it's become easier to go to places without a lot of expectations and keep an open mind. So that's been the biggest takeaway. So to go back a little bit and just realize, okay, just because I think this is right, or just because I think it's good to eat with, you in order to be civilized, you need to eat with fork and knife and spoons. That doesn't necessarily count as civilized. Other parts of the world where they eat communally and they're happy and it looks, so all these things that opens your mind to different cultures, languages. I also realize, it's not an achievement if the other side has, or if, to correct them if they don't speak good English. It's really nice that they do, and they're speaking more languages than I do. So, it is an appreciative thing. So keeping an open mind has been the biggest thing for me, that I feel like that has changed me.
Okay. What would you recommend, or golden nugget that you would give someone who wants to start traveling extensively? So someone who has not been to many countries, wants to become a solo traveler. What would be your advice there?
That's quite a big topic. So I think the first thing two things I would mention, but I created a couple of videos around, being safe or how to start solo traveling. So you can check them on my YouTube. So I did that specifically because I get that asked a lot, like, hey, how can you go to Tajikistan on your own? Or, hey, how are you going to Ghana on your own? Was it not dangerous? So two things, people. One, am I going to be lonely? How do I cope with that? And the second one is it going to be safe if I do that on my own? So for the safety part, I think generally it really depends on the destination. And if you just tend to, so if you have anything that's flashy, or I tend to travel really simple. So that actually helps quite a lot with safety. Second thing is, if you do a little bit of research and if you're conscious of how you approach people, the information you need to give out or withhold, that helps quite a lot. But again, that's a question based on destination. I don't think I have felt unsafe anywhere so far. Even in Africa, I got into a couple of tight spots, but it was still not, to the extent that I would be like, hey, I'm not going to go anymore. So, but yeah, there are dangerous places. Like I'm planning to go to Afghanistan next year, and I am thinking, hard about it, because it is not a place you would want to be stuck at or get into trouble. The other part is the part where you feel like, oh, I'm gonna feel lonely, or I'm not gonna. So I think this solo kind of has this idea that if you're traveling, you're on your own at all times. That's not the case. It's actually a big advantage of solo traveling is that you meet other people and new people. And I'm really glad that I met so many people throughout the time that I was traveling and made new friends. And that would not happen if I was traveling with my own friends, because then you don't tend to look outside your group, right? You're just comfortable with the situation. So it was good because I met so many other solo travelers or other people who gave me recommendations. I was in Belize and I met a really nice couple who did Sri Lanka, and I was going there next. So they helped me get in touch with the person who took me around, and he became a good friend as well. So it's these type of things that help. And if you want to not feel lonely, I always find free walking tours are the best thing to meet new people, to get to know other solo travelers, or, get that feeling of, you're with other people. And I always download plenty of stuff too. I'm really comfortable eating on my own. It feels awkward first a few times, but then you're fine, eating on your own. You don't really care what people are saying or how they look at you or what they perceive of you. If you don't care, I don't think anyone cares either. It's all in your head. But yeah, check out the videos on YouTube. There's a lot more to this. I'm afraid it will take a lot more time to discuss that.
No, great advice there. And I love that you mentioned free walking tours, which I have done a ton on, I don't know on how many cities, and it's definitely a good way to connect with other travelers. So you mentioned your YouTube channel. Where can people find more out about you and can get in touch with you?
So I do, it's all under the same name. So I do some short sort of stories on TikTok. It's Brown Boy Travels. That's on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram. You can also write to me. My email is on my profile, so if you need any help. But I do get I always like it when people approach me with hey, I'm going to Albania or I'm going to XYZ or Kyrgyzstan, or I have these questions. I love getting those type of emails because I like that people are going to have the same experience as me, but not similar, but not the same. And I'm kind of helping them prepare for it. So that always, that makes me happy. So I always love to hear about that.
Cool. I will put the link in the show notes, and people can reach you with just one click, and then you can take it from there. Ucman, thanks so much for your time. I think it was very insightful. I think this speaks a lot about what other travelers have experienced and hopefully what new travelers will experience. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you very much. The pleasure is all mine. Have a good day.
You too. Hey, Klaus here. Before you leave, I have a question. Are you a traveler? Do you have a favorite travel destination or favorite travel experiences that you would like to share with the world? Then become a guest on the Why We Travel podcast. Simply message me and I will get you all the details for becoming an interview guest, and then we take it from there. That's it for now. I see you in the next episode and have a great day.